Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Tonight's event marches Evening with the Experts, and our topic is Importance of Social Emotional Learning. Our experts tonight are Dr. Meeker Watson from Sing.Play.Love and Kayla Herbener here from ECC. My name is Rose Ludeman. I've been your facilitator for these events. I see a lot of familiar names and some new ones, so I'm really excited to get going and talk about the importance and everything that you guys can do to be better social emotional learning teachers and advocates. A reminder, this is recorded. It will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel afterwards. And then for training credit, you do have to complete the evaluation at the end. Okay, if you're new to how these events go, we're going to meet the experts first. They're just going to give a little bit of information about themselves. We're going to identify what the problem is. We're going to let them speak to that. If there were any pre-submitted questions or scenarios that you guys wanted help or guidance on, we're going to look at those. And then if any other thoughts or concerns you guys had that pop up over the course of the training, you'll have time at the end to also talk about those. All right, so without further ado, we're going to turn it over to our first expert, Dr. Meeker Watson. If you were lucky enough to attend our fall conference, she was our keynote speaker for both sessions. So I'm going to turn it over to her to give a little bit of information about herself.
Good evening. I am glad to see you. In Kansas City, it's a couple hours later, and it's much past my bedtime, but you are a delight to be able to spend my evening with. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm honored to be able to contribute. I have been a music therapist and a music educator for my career, kind of back and forth, and most recently have fallen in love with early childhood. I serve a variety of different audiences, including wonderful folks like you who are caring for and teaching children. I work with parents as teachers and Head Start, and I serve folks that have children who have extremely challenging behaviors. And I'm sure that many of you are on that list as well. So glad to be here. I'm joined by one dog somewhere that may come in and out of the shot, but otherwise, we're going to do some fun things, and I have some exciting news for you towards the end. So, anyway, I'm excited to see you. Thanks for inviting me to your party.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne, so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, if you're not familiar and haven't taken a training from our in-house expert, Kayla Herbener, I'll allow her to tell you a little bit about herself.
Yeah, I think almost everybody on here, I recognize most of the names, but if you don't know me, my name is Kayla Herbener. I'm an early childhood specialist at ECC. I spent the first year and a half as a social emotional specialist and now have kind of moved over to the starting strong side, but still very passionate about social emotional learning. I got my early childhood degree from SDSU. I've worked with infants and toddlers. I've taught preschool and then moved into teaching elementary school for 6 years. And now I'm here working back in the early childhood field and loving every minute of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla. These two ladies have a great back and forth rapport, so you guys are in for a lot of fun tonight. All right. So I'm going to start with this quote. The research is clear. Emotions determine whether academic content will be processed deeply and remembered. So after speaking a little more with Dr. Ann and Kayla, the identified problem is that we have to be able to help these children work through their emotions, right? And understand them and get the skills that they need so that they can move through their academic career successfully, right? And what this comes down to is that we have to teach these explicitly. So the experts tonight are going to provide you with evidence on why you should do so. They're going to speak to how you can advocate for this type of learning, either within your own facility, your school, or the families that you provide care for, and your community at large. And then finally, they're going to give you some solid ideas and tools for you to lean on during your journey to becoming a social emotional learning advocate and stronger teacher. Okay, so first up tonight, we are going to hear from Kayla, and she's going to give you kind of the why. So the evidence behind it.
Yes. So those of you that have worked with ECC quite a bit, you know that we have a very strong focus on social emotional learning, challenging behaviors, and it's not just for funsies. It's because we know that that's what is needed out in the field. And we hear all the time, like teachers are burning out because of challenging behavior. Children are harder, parents are harder. It just seems like this is an overwhelming challenge that we are all being faced with. So, the importance of teaching social emotional skills, like Rose said, explicitly, is that this is just like any other skill we teach them. This is just like letter recognition, mathematical concepts, any of that. We have to explicitly teach these kids social and emotional skills. So when we talk about response strategies for challenging behavior, this only works if we have paired it with careful and intentional teaching of social skills and emotional competencies. Go ahead to the next slide, Rose. Okay, so the link to adult outcomes. It all starts in early childhood. We know that their brain is taking in and absorbing the most information in these first 5 years. So you all play a very important role because the skills they're learning now transfers into elementary school, middle school, high school, and beyond. So all of the research that has been done, this is all pulled from the pyramid model, shows that children who are reported to have these skills are more likely to graduate from high school on time. They're more likely to get a college degree or have a full-time job. They're less likely to be arrested or engage in substance abuse, on waiting lists for public housing, all of that big, bad, scary stuff. I will also add that there is a generational difference in how probably most of us talked about emotions or how we were taught to deal with our emotions. And when Rose and Anna and I were talking, we had kind of talked about how we were raised. Rub some dirt in it. You don't need to cry about it. There's no reason to be sad about this. And now, as adults, it's a lot harder for us to manage those emotions in a healthy way because we were raised that, oh, that emotion doesn't matter. Shove it under the rug and move on. So, when we talk about adult outcomes, yes, there's all of this research behind graduation rates, substance abuse, all of that. But there's also just how we handle stress and life in general as we get older. Okay, so children with strong social emotional literacy skills. They have greater academic achievement. So once they get into school, they tend to do better reading, writing, and math. These children tend to be more focused. They know what to do with their bodies when they feel themselves becoming dysregulated. They are healthier in general. Hopefully are less impulsive because they know when they're starting to get worked up, they know how to control those impulses. These children tend to have more friends. They've worked on problem solving skills. They know how to work through their differences, their disagreements. They're less lonely because they have those friendships and those strong relationships. They're able to tolerate frustration. It's a huge thing as an adult. We all know we have to be able to tolerate our frustration in a healthy, professional way. They engage in less destructive behavior, get in fewer fights. And all of this, again, is pulled from the research that the pyramid model has done. Okay, so when children are able to control and regulate their emotions, like I just said, they have an easier time making friends. They're able to handle disappointment a lot easier. They relate more successfully with their peers and adults. So those strong, healthy relationships can be built and again are less impulsive. All necessary skills for school and beyond. Okay, this was a slide that I wanted to share tonight because we're going to be talking about teaching social emotional skills. And what I and my colleagues have seen a lot in the field is that we are trying to teach these skills when we are at the height of a meltdown or a tantrum or when a child is dysregulated. So we're trying to teach them a replacement behavior in the moment. But this, I feel like, is a visual to show you when it is appropriate to teach a new skill. So at the bottom here, you see the two green arrows. We teach and we practice when the child is regulated, they are calm, they're in their executive functioning state. That little gray arrow, if we've done enough teaching and front loading of these skills, hopefully a prompt when we start to see them get they're a little on edge, they're a little triggered. Hopefully, if we've done enough teaching beforehand, a prompt will mitigate a meltdown. Rosen, I think if you click, yes, there we go. But if you don't remember anything else from tonight, remember this, that we cannot teach these children a new skill when they are dysregulated. So those of you that are familiar with conscious discipline, if we are in a survival state or an emotional state, there is nothing new being absorbed into our brain because we are in fight or flight or freeze mode. So as we move along tonight and we talk about some of these strategies on how to teach, just remember that the explicit teaching when they are calm, cool, and collected can only happen when they're calm, cool, and collected. It cannot happen at the height of a meltdown or a temper tantrum. Okay, and stages of learning any new skill. So this show and tell stage is your explicit teaching. It can be done whole group, it can be done small group. This is when we are showing them how to use the skill and telling them what that skill is used for. This is usually, well, planned, prepped. There's a purpose behind the activity. Then we get into the practice phase of learning a new skill. And this is where they practice the fluency. So you are providing them multiple opportunities throughout the day to practice the skill, whether it's emotional literacy, emotional regulation, friendship skills, problem solving, any of the social emotional skills, you are providing them ample opportunity to practice. And then the end goal, you got it. They know how to use the skill. They can apply it in the classroom. They can apply it at home. They can apply it at the grocery store when they don't get the Oreos that they want. So when they can apply that skill in many different areas, then we know that they've got it. Then we're just at the maintenance stage. Okay. And any social emotional skill, we want to teach it all day, every day, introducing new concepts in a large group or a small group, modeling and practicing. Those of you that know Carol, who's also on this call, Carol and I, we love to tell you to use puppets to model and practice these skills with children. We want to practice within all activities, your routines, your meal times, free play, all throughout the day, transitions. We know those are really hard for children and over time. So this one, I think, is the one that gets left out sometimes because as teachers, I'm guilty of this too. We have our checklist. Yep, taught that, taught that, taught that. But we want to make sure, even though it's maybe on our lesson plans for these weeks, we want to make sure that we are continuing to teach and model and practice all throughout the school year, all day, every day. Okay, some things to think about when you're starting to model labeling emotions. When we talk about emotional literacy, I just have a few do's and don'ts, but we want to make sure that we're modeling expression, appropriate regulation of both negative and positive emotions. I think a lot of times we highlight anger because that's the one that typically comes out as a challenging behavior. But we want to make sure that we are teaching children about all varieties of emotions, positive and negative, and making sure that we tell children everybody has emotions. They're not good or bad. Everybody has them. It's how we respond to those emotions. We want to intentionally plan examples that are about adult behavior instead of labeling or modeling situations where it's tied to a child's behavior. So there's an example at the bottom. I'm angry because you are not listening. So we're putting our emotions back on that child, which can be a slippery slope because we never want to blame or shame children for our own emotions. So a more positive example would be, I am frustrated that I can't find the book I want to read today. So I'm just going to stop. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to do some pretzel breaths, some rainbow breaths. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, and then I'm going to look for my book and solve my problem. So when you start to label your own emotions, try to make sure that those emotions or those examples you're using aren't tied to a child's behavior. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I found a quote over the weekend that just popped up on, I think it was Facebook, and I was like, oh, I'm using this. Children do not learn from what we tell them. They learn from what we show them. So as we move on tonight, just remember that the best strategy for teaching emotional literacy and regulation is showing them how you practice those skills yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kayla. And something I want to touch on, especially as a mom of a 10-year-old and as an adult who wasn't lucky enough to get this type of instruction, it's never too late, right? To get these skills and to practice them and to work through them. So even as an adult, if you're sitting here listening to this and some of it's starting to resonate, or if you teach older children, public school, or you're a school age teacher, don't think that this is just early childhood. This applies across the board. Adults can benefit from this too. So, all right, before we move over to Anne, here's another quote. So, emotion regulation calls on so many skills, including attention, planning, cognitive development, and language development. So now that you've gotten the why from Kayla, all the important evidence and everything about why this is so important, we're going to listen to Dr. Ann, and she's going to discuss the what's and how's of social emotional learning.
Boy, that Kayla is a hard act to follow, but I will do my very best. We're looking at a fellow right here that is truly not accessing his thinking brain. He's looking very angry, but that anger may also be sadness or fear or frustration. All of it is expressed as anger. And I think of a friend of mine, if you will allow me to tell you a short story, who was a phenomenal music teacher in my former school district. And she was transitioning a boy in second grade from her music classroom back to his classroom. he escalated. So he had huge feelings towards another kid, and he turned those escalated feelings on her. He threw a whiteboard at her and it hit her in the head. And she sustained a traumatic brain injury, and she has short-term memory loss. She has balance and equilibrium problems. She had to quit work. She's not able to work now. She's not able to be on her feet for very long. So the seriousness and the importance of helping children learn this critical skill. And I don't think I know of a skill that's more critical for early childhood. This emotional regulation, there's so much urgency to that. I will hear stories, or I will talk to friends who have interactions with older kids. And when they have their escalations, adults, other kids are getting hurt, and it makes me realize that when kids are little and they aggress toward us, they don't hit us in our head. They can't reach that place yet. So I have really been focusing my work a lot on this idea of emotional regulation and emotional literacy for kids, being able to understand what are those feelings that I'm feeling. What are the feelings on the faces of others, my family members, my friends at school? What's going on with them? And just really becoming more observant of those feelings and the way they feel within our bodies, but the way they're expressed on faces and bodies. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And some of that has changed post-pandemic. So we're going to talk a little bit about that also. And there we go. When we talk about emotional regulation, it's an umbrella for a couple of different stages that kids move through as they master this. We used to believe that preschoolers 3 to 5 could self-regulate, given enough of that explicit instruction and opportunities to practice. What we're finding now, and then I would say that our 0s to 2s and even 3s require something different. They don't just need our support to get to a place where they can find their way back to just right and calm body. They need us to regulate with them. They need us to narrate their experience. They need our touch. They need close proximity. They need that consistent reassurance, that positive, specific praise, and they need hands-on. And those years of a child's life, we mutually regulate or we co-regulate with the child. So we're regulating with them. I have, since the pandemic, seen kids really struggling with emotional regulation all the way through not just 5, but 6, 7, and 8. I'm finding kids are really lacking in this skill. So we're going to have to start over again. We could talk about the why a little bit, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a set of tools for that. I think part of it is the amount of screen time that kids are getting, and that inhibits their ability to connect with their caring adult and with their peers as well. So when you don't have that support, that closeness with another human being, sometimes you tend to have those feelings of frustration and fear and sadness, and those are expressed as anger, all of them. Mutual regulation. I don't think that there's anything more lovely than a child knowing that a caring adult has their back. How many of you feel like you wish the children that you serve had a stronger connection with their own caring adults in their home? Is there anyone that notices that or feels that? I'm seeing some heads nodding. Absolutely. How many of you feel like you are the most connected, consistent, predictable part of a child's day? Any of you? Yeah, I agree. It's hard. And again, back to screen time some, where parents are missing the gorgeous language initiations, the needs of their children, the emotions they're expressing. And so all those beautiful things that Kayla described aren't going to happen if we have that disconnect. Self-regulation requires some things of kids, and Kayla talked about that executive function, that ability to make a plan and understand what I'm going to start with in my plan, what's going to be in the middle, and what's at the end. There are some skills that we know that kids have to self-regulate. One of them is impulse control. And every kindergarten teacher will tell you, oh boy, do I wish kids had better impulse control when they come to school. Another is cognitive flexibility, their ability to just roll with things, to know, and part of this is the third piece, it's the memory, the working memory. But if a kid melts down when he forgets his backpack, he can get to a place of just right if he remembers that my caregiver last time, she showed me that she has some books I can read and she has some snacks. And so even though I don't have my backpack, I think I can survive this. So that working memory is an important part of self-regulation as well. The thing I love about music is that music provides a way for kids to sing a song in their head. Given enough repetition of the words that you say around social emotional learning, and even the songs that you sing that include those words, the stories that you tell that proactively explain what your expectations are for kids, all of those pieces can really help with that working memory. But those skills together allow a child to monitor and manage their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. Another definition of self-regulation is just trying to help a child reduce the frequency and intensity. And I think of like a sound wave or even a roller coaster. We want a child to not have this kind of experience with emotions. We want to be able to stay closer to the middle so they can recover more easily from those stressful experiences. Children learn through one-to-one interactions with caring adults. And I mean, I could do a mic drop right now. That is the most important thing that I came to the party to say tonight. Those times when you get on a child's level, when you smile, when you pay attention, when you can convince a child with your facial expression that you are listening, when you reflect, it sounds to me like you're having a big feeling because your brother didn't let you blah, 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 right? Fill in the blank. It's those experiences that help a child feel connected to you and like you really do care about them and think they're the best in the state of South Dakota at so many things. And they know that because you give them that feedback. You provide that positive, specific praise in all aspects of their time with you and not just their social emotional learning function. Music can calm and music can alert. And I think a lot of the music that is written for young children is very alerting. So I tend to back away from that. We'll do some, just like a balanced diet that is exciting and we'll get up and have dance party. But I also like to use music to calm a child, to help them sometimes restart their day. There are times, and I know you've had this, where a child will be delivered escalated to the sky. And then some of your other kids become escalated. It's as if you've done too good a job of teaching them how to be empathetic. So they're all going to be escalated because the one friend arrived perhaps in their pajamas, dropped off, and you take him, right? And so then you're escalated because of all the escalation. So sometimes playing a calming piece of music, maybe even dimming the lights a little bit, and just telling kids we're going to have a surprise change in our schedule. We're going to go over to the rug and we're going to sit and we're going to listen to a song and then we'll do the next thing. So music can serve you in that way. There's a function to music in addition to all the good things that music does for a child. Music helps a child feel organized. Music is predictable. there are parts of a song that stay the same, and that's called the chorus. That's the part that repeats over and over again. And there are parts of the song that change, and that's called the verses. Kids can detect that pattern. There's something very primal and um, organizing about that repetition and then that variation. And just like when kids are in a marching band in high school, when you have a music activity, even something like Hickory Dickory Dock, where you're all doing that together, kids will notice that other kids are doing the same thing they're doing. You're all clapping your hands, or you're all doing some sort of a motor motion at the same time. That's very gratifying and that's very cohesive. And research shows us that when kids have that experience of all doing something at the same time together, that they will go outside and be more likely to initiate play with each other or head to a free play center and ask a friend to join them because they are now kind of a marching band. So, music again can provide that way to help us be organized and help us predict what's going to happen. Some of your friends don't like whole group instruction, do they? They don't like having to be taken away from the Lego table or whatever it is that they prefer the most. So being able to be with friends and know this is what's going to happen, even within my snack schedule, within my song singing schedule, um, that's a beautiful thing as well. I love a visual schedule for the entire day. Think about schedules within your schedules. Some of your friends will benefit so much from that ability to see what happens next, even within the tiny routines that you have. That predictability, that visual support really reduces anxiety and makes them feel like they have some control. So you're less likely to see escalations because they feel like they know what's going to happen next. And then lastly, music is great for helping kids engage with other kids. And peers can be wonderful social emotional learning teachers. They can model the skills that they're learning along with other kids. When you praise that, when you provide that specific feedback, you are being so kind. I just noticed that you told your friend that you hoped he feels better because he's a little sad when he just got to school. Those kinds of experiences increase the likelihood they're going to happen again. And all of the children are going to notice when you are giving that special and positive experience to one. So they're all going to try their best to earn your favor in terms of their social emotional skills as well. Emotional literacy is simply the ability to fill in the blank. I feel, and some of your friends may need some help with that filling in the blank. So you use your skills to observe kids and to um, reflect to them what you think they might be feeling and be able to have those conversations around why they're having the feeling they're having. I wanted to sing one of my very favorite songs, and this is the book that I wrote and the song that I wrote in response to my friend's traumatic brain injury. But it's called Surprise Kid, and who doesn't love a superhero? We decided that we wanted to have multiple superheroes in this book, and the illustrator was leading the charge on that. And I thought it was brilliant so that children can recognize themselves in these superheroes, and their superpower is they can calm their body and calm the way they feel. So there is, just as we talked about with that wonderful predictability of repeating choruses and changing verses, there is a story that children can sing that to themselves. That is the chorus. And if you would go ahead and go to the next slide, I'll show them those words. Oh, yes, this is very true. Children communicate through their behavior. I know that is breaking news for all of you who have been in this field for longer than 10 minutes. But that is certainly true. And there is working memory. I would say that when I am making chili at my house, I have all of my canned goods in the basement, and I march down the stairs to get a can of chili beans if I'm missing an ingredient for the chili in my kitchen. And when I get to the bottom of the stairs, I have no idea why I'm standing in my basement. And that is because at this point in my life, I'm really kind of lacking working memory. Back up the stairs I go, I'm in the kitchen, and of course I remember that I need some chili beans to make my chili. Back down the stairs, and the game begins again. And kids need that kind of tool or a way to improve those working memory skills. Otherwise, all the beautiful things that we're teaching them, they're never going to be able to apply because they can't remember them. That's why the repetition and the application that Kayla was talking about is so important. You are going to be very tired of repeating the wise things that Kayla said to your kids and helping them come up with ways to practice. But they do not grow tired of it, especially when you find fun ways to practice and to share. So working memory is one of those key skills for self-regulation.
When we were meeting, talking about this training, and Anne had mentioned, if we put it to a song, they're more likely to remember. And it just reminded me, how many of you can name the 50 states by singing the song? If you just asked me to list them, I couldn't do it unless I sang the song in my head. So I think these skills, specifically putting them to a song that the children can replay in their heads to remember what they're supposed to do when they feel dysregulated, can be a super powerful tool.
Amen. I like it. Okay. Our goals are going to be that we're going to calm our body and calm the way we feel. So if you go ahead and advance that slide, Miss Rose, there we go. We're going to embed some self-calming techniques right into our song. We're going to take our hands and pat slowly on our lap like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is required activity for you in the studio audience. So if you would take your hands and pat your legs, we'll do it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm seeing some people on the back row that are really excelling, and I thank you very much, all the way from Kansas City. We're going to sign the word calm. So take your open hands, your 5s, and now you're looking at my belly button, and just push them down. 1, 2. It's called calm. 1, 2. It's a great ASL sign that you can use across the room. Oh, buddy, you're so calm, right? You can tell him across the room with your special hand language. And we're going to count to 4. So we'll just pat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to borrow from our friends in conscious discipline a calming breath where you're going to breathe in through your nose, not through your mouth. Because if we breathe in through our mouth, we're likely to have kind of a gasp. That's not very regulating. That's not calming. So we're going to breathe in through our nose, and we're going to sign the word for flower. Smell the flower. Good. Now blow out the candle for as long as you can. Good. Do it again. Smell the flower in through your nose. And blow out the candle. That is it. I think we're ready. We're going to sing the scripted story, and then we'll watch a music video, but we're still going to sing and do our action so that we can practice our calming techniques. Okay, hit it, Miss Rose.
I'm a superhero kid, and you can be one too. I don't mind surprises, 'cause I know just what to do. I can calm my body, I can calm the way I feel. I count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe softly.
Very good. Can you go to the next
Sometimes
slide?
my friends are noisy and I do not.
Meet some superheroes.
I'm a superhero kid and you can be one too. I don't mind surprises cause I know just what to do. I can calm my body, I can calm the way I feel. I count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe some more. I breathe some more. Sometimes my friends are noisy and I do not like their sound. And then I hear a siren from the fire truck in town. Oh no, please don't shoot fireworks, they make me want to hide. I need to sing our song again so I'll feel good inside.
And that's one of the superheroes. But giving kids the courage to self-regulate, praising them and telling them that they have a superpower just like any other superhero when they're able to find their way back to calm. I want to give you a set of visuals that you can use. And oh boy, do I agree with Kayla. We have to practice these strategies when a child is calm. We have to be in that place of calm because when the storm comes, and for some of your friends, the storm always comes, they have to have mastered these choices so that you can offer the choice and then ask them if they need your help. Practicing your calming breath is going to be just what we did in the chorus of the song. We're going to smell the flower. Let's do it again. And if you have done that 4,326 times, then your child will be ready when the storm comes to use that as a strategy if that's something that makes them feel calmer. Counting in your head, so you can count and you could practice that. You can say, what are we going to count to today? What's your favorite number? Do you want to count out loud? Do you want to count in your head? On your mark it, set, go. Signing or saying the word calm. And I have found that word calms children. Part of it is because what are you doing with your face? You are calm. Sometimes you got to think about that. When a kid escalates, you're not having a calming moment yourself. So fake it till you make it with your face. Naming their big feelings. And I bet you have some visuals at your disposal. And if you don't, Kayla will show you where there's some dandy ones. But just showing kids the feelings and talking about them. There are wonderful books that you can read that show the faces and then talk about why the feelings happen and why and what they look like on our faces. Singing a superhero song to ourselves, and then giving or getting a hug. In the moment, sometimes for some kids, that pressure of a little bit of a squeeze or them squeezing a pillow or a teddy bear. Hug isn't necessarily hugging them, but that's a choice as well. So you can offer them this visual and say which one. Less is more. As teachers and caregivers, we're really big on la 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 la, talk, 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 talk. Sometimes less is more. And then, do you need my help? Those are at Sing.Play.Love.com, and you are welcome to go there and download them. And there are some big cards you can print. And every time you are with your kids each day, you can practice one strategy. And then over time, they will have them all mastered. That's what they look like.
And if any provider that's attending tonight needs help printing, you don't have access to it or a laminator, if you just shoot me an email back in that thread, ECC is more than happy to do that for you. And we can either mail them if you don't live in the Rapid area, or we can drop them off. So don't feel like this is a resource that isn't usable because you don't have access to a printer. We'll help you out.
Yay, Rose! And some bookies that I absolutely love that help kids again with those conversations around emotional regulation. I like to do a bedtime book sometimes just to bring us all down. And your voice, the sound of your voice, even if you're just saying the words, they sound like music to your kids because they love your voice so much. They think you're better than Taylor Swift. And you are.
The book that Anne has here, Sometimes I'm a Bombaloo, we're going to reference later in a couple of slides because we have a training where if you sign up for it, you get one of those books along with a bunch of others. So we'll talk about that in a couple slides.
And then if you're so inclined, while you're getting your calming kit at Sing.Play.Love.com, I've got a lot of books. Surprise Kid is one of them. And I have some other books that help with practicing and mastering the language around social emotional learning. So take a look at those. We have books for children birth to 5 and all different stages as well.
And we are lucky enough to have another door prize from Anne this month. So last month we gave away this one as well, and Amy Fowler was the lucky recipient. So at the end, if you fill out the evaluation, I'll put your name in a little wheel name generated little app, and somebody will win this great book to use in their classroom.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Kayla for just a second. So if you're familiar with the pyramid model, you know us at ECC are big proponents of it, but she's going to explain a little bit about it and some of the resources there.
Okay, so if you do not have purchasing power, but you want to implement more social emotional learning into your classroom, the Pyramid Model website is just challengingbehavior.org, and they have hundreds of free resources, printable resources. They have webinars, they have videos of teachers practicing these skills or implementing these lessons in real time that you can watch. They have parent resources. They have, you name it, they probably have it. So those of you that have been to any of our pyramid model classes or worked with our coaches or received TA, I would say 85% of the resources we hand out come from challengingbehavior.org. And like Rose mentioned earlier, if you do not have access to a printer or would like some things laminated, we're always willing to help you do that in our office. When you go to the website, you have to click on the resources tab, or it's resource library. If you click in there, search a topic that you're interested in, it'll pop up all kinds of good stuff for you.
And I'll give you a tip when you're searching on there because there are hundreds of resources. Narrow it down by language because they are such an inclusive website that they have multiple languages for all the resources. So it will help you kind of tailor down what you get back in your search results so you're not wading through, 20 pages. So. Okay, so we're going to move on to a couple of scenarios and we're going to get Anne and Kayla's feedback on. So the first one is, my son knows regulation techniques. He can speak to what emotions look like, but he still struggles with quick escalation. What can I do when he immediately resorts to physical violence?
I'm going to let you lead on this, Kayla, and I'll bring up the rear. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the first thing to remember here is that preloading, the pre-teaching, the working memory, like Anne had mentioned. You teach it, you think they understand it, they can tell you what they're feeling, they can identify feelings when they're calm, but as soon as something sets them off, they no longer can pull from their working memory the skills that they need. So I think going back to how you're practicing the skill in a way that they can access it when they're escalated. And Anna, I'm guessing you're going to touch on this too, but once we've reached that peak, we're already up there. Just remember that they're going to have to come down before we can get through to them, or they can use a skill. So that co-regulation is probably going to be your best bet when they've already escalated.
Right. And I think too, it sounds like this is happening with some frequency. And if it does, I think it's important to try your best to figure out why. What is it that happens before the escalation? And how can you recognize when, like that, the curve that Kayla showed, how can we recognize when he's on the way up? So that you can head that off and come up with a way that you two can think about it and talk about it before there's no ability to think or talk. So we call it in the biz, we say what's the function of that behavior? What is it that's causing him to have that escalation? And is it disposition? Is it something situational? What is it? So that would be the only thing I would think about, just to try and change that, change the trajectory by understanding what it is that is the trigger. Yeah.
I also think that sometimes the function of the behavior, the cause of the behavior, is sometimes really hard to pinpoint because it might look like absolutely nothing happened or something teeny tiny happened. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're tired, maybe they're not feeling well. But the more you can track, and I'm a huge data person, but if you keep track of what time of day it was, what physical materials was he or she playing with, what other children were they around, was it loud, were they overstimulated, all of those different things, the longer we can track when the behavior happens, I think the easier it is to pinpoint the function. Read.
Okay, then the last one, because you are an amazing group of educators and I want you to be able to speak to the importance of this, is how do I explain the importance of social emotional learning to parents who want to see work sent home or they want proof of learning, right? So maybe you two can provide a little short, soapbox of why.
Well, what I like to send home, and I do send home ways that we can partner as teachers and childcare providers with parents to teach these very important things. But the most important thing for me is that families simply spend time together. And I would offer, and I hope it's all right if I insert this here, but I'm working within the state of Kansas with Head Start and parents as teachers on a website called just10minutes.org. And I tell you this because it's going to be a free online idea bank that you can share with your families. So if you want to send home some work, have them pick an activity that they can enjoy together for just 10 screen-free minutes. That's the objective. And I don't think there's any higher benefit than that right now, just to have that time together where how do we head off escalations when a child is not frustrated and when a child is getting their needs met for touch and for connection and for attention. And some of those things come to school, that can be part of the function of the behavior too. The things that we're seeing We may not have a deep knowledge of what is going on in that child's life when they're not with us. But just to help parents connect, that's the work I'd like to see happening at home.
And I would add to that for the parents that are looking for their child to know all their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. If they're looking for that type of work, going back to the idea that that will all come as soon as we know how to regulate and be successful in the classroom. So those, if you guys are interested, the like brain state model from Conscious Discipline, I think, and the pyramid model has some too, but Conscious Discipline has some really good resources for how to explain when we are in our survival state, when we are in our emotional state, we can't learn our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. We can't absorb that information. So at this age, at these younger ages, the best thing we can give them is tools on how to access their executive functioning brain more often, so that when they get into school and that academic piece is so much more important, they have the skills to be able to learn that.
And I would just say that social emotional skills are the most important predictor of school success through third grade. And, as Kayla said, not ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Predictors of kindergarten readiness skills are a child's ability to listen, to make sense of visual information that they see. And that's why visual schedules and even signing with a child, those are important. Cooperation and impulse control. Those are the 4. We didn't say ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, did we? So those are all within that scope of social emotional learning.
There's also so many stories, like children's books and activities that you can do based around literacy. So you're getting that literacy component, but really our objective and our key focus is the social emotional skills that are being taught.
Yeah, I think that's really important to touch on, Kayla, is that this can be cross-discipline, right? We can teach learning skills when you are doing a literacy lesson, when you're doing a math lesson, you're working on turn taking, with the dice. And yeah, so there's ways you can do it all throughout your day.
And if your parents really are still giving you a hard time, you just give them our business card.
Yeah. Okay, so to wrap up, here is a quote. So between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So we've spoke tonight at length on how you guys are helping the children within your care and classroom work on social emotional skills, right? But let's not forget us as the practitioner as well. And we kind of touched on this earlier, is our generations where we grew up, we didn't get the chance to practice these. We didn't get the exposure to learning proper techniques and tools to build our toolkit. We're doing it now, right? As we're teaching these kids, we're building that up as well. So give yourself some grace and allow yourself to take that space as well. So model that social emotional learning as you're doing it. That'll be so powerful. And Kayla said that earlier, you can show them in real time. I think as teachers, we're taught to compartmentalize and leave things at the door, which is great because we need to be there for the children, but it's also equally important to model and walk through how you're feeling in real time for those kids as well. The video I sent out last minute is Dr. Becky's TED Talks on rupture and repair. And we are not going to be perfect. We're not going to be able to practice these social emotional skills and model them perfectly every time. And one of the most important things you can do is when you have those mistakes, those imperfect moments, when you didn't respond appropriately to a child, maybe you were short with them, you didn't give them that attention, that physical warmth that they needed, repair it. Come back to it, acknowledge it and apologize it and work forward through that. And that will give them power in learning that skill and also you as well. Okay. Did anybody have any questions or concerns that came up over tonight's training that they want to ask Kayla or Ann before we move on?
Everyone shouldn't go at once.
I didn't see any pop up in the chat either, so the last thing I have is to navigate over to our professional development calendar. If you're not familiar with our website, this is where all of our trainings are located and you can sign up for more. I wanted to touch on just a couple that really expand upon that skill set. So we have on the 18th, helping young children understand and describe emotions. That will be with Carol Foster, and it's a new training. So if you've ever taken a training with her, you know that you're bound to learn tons. And then Kayla has one on the 25th, teaching problem solving, make and take. Make and take, if you ever see that on a training, know that you're getting to go away with a bunch of tools to implement within your classroom. So there's a bunch more on there. Feel free to navigate, but I'm not going to keep you any longer than you have to tonight. But absolutely go to our website and register for some more. Now the evaluation. So let me stop sharing and I will drop that in the chat really quick. Okay, there is the link. And there is the QR code. So please navigate over to the evaluation. Once you finish that, it'll show up here that you've completed it and we'll be able to email you your training certificate. If you guys have any other thoughts and concerns, don't hesitate to either drop them in the chat or reach out. And I'm so thankful that you guys are all here. You guys are all doing the hardest job. I know I've said that the last couple of months, but really, you guys are helping these children learn how to be functioning humans in society, right? You're providing them with that base. So you guys are doing the hard work.
I can't get to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't get to this evaluation. What am I doing? I don't understand.
Is the link not working?
I don't see a link. I don't know a link. I don't know computers and stuff.
So in the chat, it should be a link. So in the chat bar,
Click on chat.
yep, click on chat, and then there should be a blue link that you click and it'll pop up the evaluation.
Yes. I don't have social and emotional learning. Can you hear me yet?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Oh, good. I've got some tech support here. Maybe we'll get it.
Okay.
Class title. So we have to social and emotional learning.
Yep, that'll work just fine.
So click in this box.
Yep.
I want to thank our two experts tonight. I'm going to not make you two waste any more of your time. So thank you, Ann and Kayla. I really appreciate all you guys did to make this happen.
Thanks for all you do to organize these.
Was wonderful. Thank you. And I always like it when Kayla gets to be my dance partner. So it's a good thing. Thank you much. My dog is insisting that she go out, so I'm gone. She's the boss of me. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye, Ann. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Rose, I'm done.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jen.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Brandy. Thanks, Andrea.
Say goodbye. You think? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, you're
Oh.
still there.
Yes.
Did we need to do anything else?
Nope. She should be good.
And it's got a green circle with a check mark.
Yep, it came through, so we should be good.
None of you guys think. See the bottom? Now you can go, Grandma. I'll go get your phone. We're good.
I can empathize with that, Amy. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Charity, good to see you.
Good to see you.